Good morning. Big day. Maybe, maybe not. Oh, big day for NVIDIA, right? That's kind of become the monster in the market. Um, AI and I guess probably the biggest institutional favorite. Um, so yesterday our discussion was, first it's a semiconductor stock, right? And semiconductors were gapping up in the run up, and the way things had moved up, and they were gapping into resistance. We looked at SMH as we looked at yesterday, and this thing fell, which made sense. Okay, it's going to fall, and so as it came down here, I was looking at it and it's like, okay, institutional favorite had this nice move up. Yeah, it's a little extended intraday, but it would, if they really want this thing and it comes into the gap fill, it's going to bounce. And buyers stepped up right there and started rattling around. That's what I said in the green room there. I mean, if this thing breaks the low, they're going to start selling it because it was in an area of support, the unfilled gap. Buyers were stepping up, and those buyers turn into sellers. And then once that makes the shift, well, then start to trend down, minor resistance, and it just went on and on and on and on throughout the day. So the initial thought was, because of SMH gapping where it was, and then NVIDIA into that gap fill area, it's like, okay, here's the moment in time where if they really love this thing, they're going to step up there. And they did. And then whoever disliked it more just kept selling it, and down it went. And that had I think, NVIDIA being the stock that it is, it had a negative effect throughout the day. So now it's down here at the support, and we'll wait to see what it does after the close. Some big expectations for relatively large moves. Kind of flatlining down here, as is the markets. We'll take a look at that. So yesterday turned into a little bit of a a rout. It came up to resistance, area that we were looking at. What the thought of, if it could hold, well, this 444 area on SPY would be the next stop if it can continue to go up, and the 50 MA was up there. It would have been an obvious place with this turn that occurred, gap reversal that occurred last Friday, kind of an exhaustion gap into this support, that if things could hold up. So in other words, NVIDIA coming down into the gap fill, semiconductors, SMH coming down into the gap fill area. Buyers start to show up, things start to move higher. S&Ps would lift up, trying to reach the 50 MA, which would have been a target area. On the other hand, financials, they weren't doing so good. So, that they kind of started the day with a quarter tank, so to speak, and they ran out of gas, and didn't get clobbered very much. And now whatever happened overnight, technically, they're just back down here, kind of almost unchanged. So we'll see what rattles around here probably in the first 20 minutes or so. And if it can't lift back up again, well, that's going to open up the door to coming back down here. Just technical trading between levels, probably not going to go very far as everyone waits for NVIDIA. There's some economic news. I don't know how much of an effect it'll have. I was looking before. Hold on. I don't know, something's coming out. Let me go back to the calendar. At 9:45, global manufacturing PMI flash. And there's new home sales. So that might be a little bit of a mover. That's at 10 o'clock. Since the home building stocks got pounded down last week. So just keep that in mind, 9:45 and 10 o'clock. Maybe something pushes the markets around. 10 o'clock's a reversal time. A sec. Okay. So not much movement here. See where they are, down at the bottom of the red bar. They're on support. So there's going to be probably a wait and see kind of open which way are we going to take it, one way or the other. But initially we could see it's in this short-term bearish right there. Doing nothing. And so, as we talk each day in the morning and we share some of our thoughts, one of the thoughts was, hey, things came down a whole bunch into an area of support, a bit of exhaustion gap, bottoming tail bar. And just generally, what I said yesterday was, this thing can't lift up after 3 days. That's a bad sign, because that pattern opens up the door to at least some kind of a counter trend retracement, and it lifts up a little bit and you get a topping tail bar. Now, so far it's doing nothing, just sideways in place. But I suppose whatever NVIDIA is going to do, can it be a market mover? It's after the close, so I guess we're going to see tomorrow. And then we got the Fed guy talking. So I think the rest of this week could continue to be choppy, but we'll see what triggers. If NVIDIA tanks, maybe the things will move lower. But right now, it's kind of boring. Not too much going on there, which is okay for SPX. There was no sweating yesterday. And so today, it's based on where things are at. Call strike 44.30, bottom 43.45. So prices are here. That's pretty far away. I would think either one would work, but waiting to see which way things go for 15 minutes or so, what direction they may take under yesterday's low. You're not going to get the same premium. That's the problem. These things move so freaking fast. But you got to decide in the moment as to which way to go. But considering how far this is and there's support down here, I think this would be fine. Moving up toward here, there's nothing going to move this thing first thing in the morning. I don't think those economic numbers are going to shift it up there, to get it up to that level. But since this has got so much support down here, even if it goes down and you're getting a little bit of a pressure as to, hey, is it going to hold or not? You've got this bar is low, and you can see here's this pivot right here. So if it should come down here, you've got a nice little intraday level of support, or a line of defense, as I like to call it, where buyers would step up again and it bounces around. Okay, so Alex, that follows on a lot of these economic reports more closely as to their history of how they affect the market, says it can move SPX, this PMI. So all of these economic numbers are sensitive influences because of such a focused intention on what the Fed is going to do, and interest rates and how that's going to affect the market. And as we look at interest rates and see what they're doing, down a little bit, and the market's down. Right. So this is one of the influences that push the markets lower. And now that this is down a bit, the market isn't just rallying back up again. So the level that this is at now, even though it's coming down, the markets aren't seeing that as a positive for the moment. The 30 years coming down again. While it's good, markets don't really seem to care much about it. But eventually, the dollar is still up there. So that's the other side. That broke out. So institutions are concerned about continuing rising interest rates and the dollar going up. It's one way of interpreting the intention of the Fed, because currencies are tied to short-term interest rates. So if this dollar is starting to move up, somebody has a belief that the Fed is going to raise the Fed funds rate again and push up short-term interest rates. We'll see. But that, when we see this rising as it is, that is one of the thoughts that we should have just based on, this current situation. The Fed, look at the euro breaking down. The 200 is here. That's on a little bit of support, but euro's breaking down, and the British pound, that was trying to hold. You can see this little bottoming pattern that got those pivots, but that's breaking lower. So of course the dollar is starting to go up. So we've got interest rates moving down a little bit. The dollar is moving up. Equities are moving down a little bit, really not very much. And so basically everybody's kind of waiting for, what do we key off of for this market to move, one direction or the other. Short-term interest rates, we looked at this, they moved up a little bit, not very much, but they're not falling. So with the dollar going up and this holding steady and up a little bit, that thought of, hey, will the Fed raise another quarter of a point? It's a thought. We don't know, but so that creates that, well, I'm not so sure about this market and which way things are going to go. And we start looking at an inability to lift up toward what should be a reasonable move up off of a low like this toward these converging moving averages on the futures. Those are NASDAQ futures. But if you look at the Qs to say, hey, after a drop from up here, falling, let's just call it 8%, an exhaustion gap, coming up into this area, give or take, but it's not getting there. And now you see where it's at. So markets are weak. Buyers, sellers are in control. We'll see. The Russell is down on some support. That's not lifting up. The transports, that hardly lifted at all, and reversing back down again. So while it's short-term extended, it could become more extended. We're seeing the same thing everywhere. Look at the diamonds. So 3 bars down, which should have been was perceived as an exhaustion gap, and it can't even get up here to tag the 50-day moving average and rolls back down again. I mean, you don't have to be a brain surgeon, rocket scientist to see that it's weak. And we covered gold being down at support yesterday. We looked at that for a moment. Silver is down there, and that lifted up. And crude oil, we're just hanging here. So we wait. Bitcoin, wow. So this is what happens, when in MT Live, which there's one today, you should join us either on YouTube or join the room. I'll drop the link. One of the things that we talk about is that patterns, charts, are pictures of traders' beliefs created with money. So it's not really about haram eyes and dark cloud covers and Elliott waves and all of that kind of mumbo jumbo. It's like Bitcoin was coming down here. It rips to the upside like it's going, to Jupiter and beyond. And then it begins to consolidate, which is a positive. And then it pulls back here and begins to consolidate, pivot low, pivot low, pivot low, topping tail. Oh, maybe it's going to go down. It does it, and it flips back up again. Traders or institutions, whoever, is buying this at the 50, and it's making a rounding bottom. And then for whatever reason, it falls apart. Demand turns into supply, into a void, and it collapses. Now, there's probably some news as to why it collapsed. But when you think about this kind of a pattern, or what I mentioned before, right? NVIDIA, this will come back up. I had it on a 2-minute chart, but if you remember the chart, it's the same thing. When we look at a pattern and we put that in the context of a trend, support, and resistance, and we say, well, okay, prices are in an area where buyers should show up, and they do. And then when it fails, demand turns into supply. And that's part of what we teach as a thought process along with technical analysis. So all yours, Dan.
Good morning. Yeah, I don't have many alarms going off here. Let's look at earnings. There's a couple more disasters. I mean, DKS was the poster child yesterday. Look at DKS yesterday. It's a nasty, nasty gap. Now it was an end of day base. I hope it goes to 100. Get a final exhaustion, but look at this disaster. Today's Wednesday. We said I said yesterday that I missed this on Monday. That was a nasty breakdown on daily, weekly, monthly. Now it's gapping down. I went back to my monthly chart. This 2020 low is $16. And now look at that. It's gapping under that. Look, this thing just recently was $47. So that's putting that in my nasty excessive gap watch list. I have no idea what's going to go on here in the first 30-60 minutes, but I'll definitely be watching it. All right, this CTNT I just saw going by the ticker. Look at this recent IPO. Gapping up, buy set up here pre-market. This looks very interesting to me. It's just a perfect entrance. If this pre-market little setup holds here, looks fantastic. In fact, let me check the level one. I might nibble here myself right now. Let's see, TNT. All right, it's spready, 274 by 283. I'm gonna bid. I can bid 265 pre-market with a stop under 220. Earnings here. All right, urban 38, bullish gap on urban. So there's been a number of retails this week. So that's a put spread on a pullback. I think Sam did put spreads on that, so that's working out. Toll up a little bit, but it's range bound. It actually could be a condor for Friday if there's any juice. Lazy boy was down a little bit. No setup here. ADI getting whacked, 168. I'd prefer one more flush out. No pattern right now. Grab 353. No pattern, gap in resistance. BBWI was down, now it's flat. If it goes sideways here and can't bounce, then that maybe 30-minute low, continuation short. WSM rallying here 132, but no pattern. YMM 640, 30-minute high. That's a gap from a climactic buy setup. Piton, wow. I said yesterday, daily, weekly, monthly, look, it was down a lot. But look at that monthly. That was its attempt to bottom right there. What was that, 8 months ago? Breakout. All-time lows. That's ugly. So yeah, this thing. Greg, my internet's freaking out here, so be on standby. Oh shoot, my TV just went out, so might need your help here in a minute if this goes out. So that, who knows, that thing can go bankrupt. A and F. Surprisingly very bullish gap, but gap's too big. Like GPC, I posted as a short under these lows, which is better with the small gap up in the market, because then there'll be a continuation. Algen I have as a put spread idea still. MA, someone in the room mentioned put spread idea, but the midpoint was only 40 cents. Now Goldman's down a lot. I mean, this would be, when it's down here pre-market, I would love, 1 or 2 more day flush out. CSIQ, that's a nasty, nasty wide range down bar. I mean, you could go back on your own time. That might be the ugliest bar of this stock's life. I don't know. But that many times, far from the 20 on volume, sets up a short-term low. I have an alarm, and I think 2730. You like Morgan better? Yeah, we can watch them both. All right, good. My cable came back on my main TV. This nice gap up from a little cup and handle here. Gap's a little excessive. I wish it were gapping to like, 35, 36. Well, let's watch that on a pullback. I'll put it on the computer. APLS. Oh, AAP, I jumped over. All right, this AAP, I did a condor yesterday, which is selling an out of the money call spread, out of the money put spread, because Jessica, it was so far. I sold the $53 puts in like the 85 calls. So notice that it's opening relatively flat. So that's going to be a home run gain for my short premium earnings trade. Yes, I was asking about CSIQ. Yeah, I just talked about it. Yeah, no, it's on my watch list. I don't care how many days it takes. I have like 10 stocks I'm watching that are just beat the smithereens, but there's no potent turn yet. There's like, look at this, said, gee, there's no turn yet. EXP, no, not that one. EEFT, it's starting, momentum has slowed. But yeah, I got a bunch of these. DC asking about Airbnb. No, it is not a bottoming pattern. Bottoming patterns take time. They got to go sideways. You got a declining 20 and 50, and they start to flatten. But this was on my list yesterday saying exactly this. It's down a lot. It's in an area of major support. It's where it should start turning. And yesterday it did exactly that. So yes, this is on my list. It's in here somewhere for a put spread, but it's not a bottoming pattern, DC, but it's on my bullish watch list. You got to buy setup weekly. And I said in the green room, if it goes anywhere near this 50 MA, that's a home run trade. All right, Goldman. Where did I end up? Ag. I don't see a gap. Oh, these are not earnings trades. Somebody emailed me this. I have an alarm at 169. If it gets up there, this could be a continuation short. It's down a lot, but say 180 reversal and you got a void below. Oracle, I like a lot over yesterday's high. Put spread and long stock or call options. Roku making the turn at the 50 here. BF.B, I posted as a long over. It's a buy setup. Now, see, it had a failed turn, but now now it's gapping over this red bar, and it's a buy setup. So I posted that, but let's hold off because of the excessive gap. Let me tell our subscribers. Because I told them to buy over yesterday's high. But if you're a subscriber, you're like, all right, what do I do now? It's gapping way the heck over yesterday's high. So see, the gap's too big now. So don't like it. So let me cancel that. Uber, I like a lot. Somebody in the green room gave this to me. I see it down pre-market, which is fine because the entry is over yesterday's high. And if it doesn't trigger, it doesn't trigger. And the deeper retracement it goes, I might kill it. Yeah, I've been watching this. I said yesterday, John, let it bobble around for another day or two, get a couple more inside bars. But yeah, that was a nice gap reversal on earnings. Hershey, I know you've mentioned that a few days, but that ain't my style, Alex. That's a power downtrend, parallel 20 and 50. Compare that to Clorox. I know they're totally different stocks, but this I like substantially better because of the more vertical fall, far from the 20. I have an alarm at 150 spot 70, I think. Well, Alex, of course, you've been with us how many hundreds of years? Look, this is a Climo. It's 5 or more fluid bars far from the 20. So it's simple. This was a Climo. Look, fluid bars down far from the 20. So then we're looking for a potent turn. No, sir. I don't want to. No, that is not how we define a Climo. Because I don't have time to talk about it now, but let's come back to it. No, there's a major difference between nasty, steady selling and a Climo gets short term far from the 20 MA like a dog. Don't you have a dog? And your dog runs away from that leash you got him on, a 20-foot leash. All right, but I don't have time to talk about it now, but we'll come back to it. All right, BMY. My alarm went off, but still nothing to do right here. This Algin alarm, put spread idea. I like this. Mr. Bass, who's Mr. Bass? The only Bass I know is Carl Bass, who I saw on TV today talking about China, as he always does. All right, Algin, let me see what the put spread is. 340, 30 by 150. The spreads are preposterous, but this could turn out to be a directional too. That's a nice double bottom. All right, upstart low alarm. This thing is just beating the smithereens. BHP, I like it if it closes here and then tomorrow over today's high. But yeah, 30-minute high could be an alternative entry. All right, what alarms? Akamai, nothing to do yet. I always have early alarms. The Clorox alarm went off. Clorox is a put spread idea we mentioned yesterday. NDAC, we're already in, nothing to do. Delta Yankee. Oh, this is I did nice. Greg, remember we talked about given, I did the 80-70 put spread, but this has been a dangerous put selling season. Baxter up alarm, that was on your list, Greg.
Watch Zip if it breaks these lows. It moved down and popped back up again, but that's a little double top under the MAs. Could be a short.
Who?
Zip, ZIP, Zip Recruiter.
Alright. MA long, yeah, MA was on our put spread watch yesterday. Someone in here mentioned it. I said I liked it. IWM the weakest here so far. Spiders. I'm neutral right here on market. I'm not too bullish here until maybe 30-minute high or something or other. All right, Oracle's triggering, Oracle directional and put spread. The directional is fine, but let me check what the juice bar has for us. But that's one of my favorite longs right now.